number 20, question for the 20th of August, 3 days ago. What game mechanic inspires your play the most? The game mechanic that I find inspires my play the most, I feel like, are random tables. I kind of like random tables, right? Like I don't know if you've ever heard it, but like if you give someone, whatever kind of visual art tool, right? Like a bunch of oil paints, water paints, crayons, markers, whatever, and put them in front of a big blank canvas and say, create something. People have a really hard time doing that. You would think that would be easy, but it's not. Then you give them a restriction. Then you say, reproduce a fruit. Do a fruit. And I don't mean reproduce as in like realistic art style. It could be abstract, whatever. But do an art, or do a fruit piece. Or give me a building, or whatever. And then they start doing something, right? Then they start doing something. But ironically, if you give them the whole wide world of options, they can't go anywhere. It's interesting, actually. Extra Credits talked about this just the other day. Well, actually, it wasn't just the other day. I'm like 3 months behind on my YouTube watching, so it was actually like 3 months ago. So, it's not analysis paralysis. It was like choice paralysis or something like that. Like giving somebody a bunch of choices and they just go, it's easier if I do something else, and they just. Or I'll do that later when I've got more mind power, or when I've studied some, and they basically just never come back because the huge number of choices just pushes them away, right? I think there's something to that. So, I mean, it's not just I think there's something to that. There is something to that. And I think for me, random tables give me something to start from, right? Some place to go, okay, well, here's an idea. What else could I do with that idea? But the problem has always been for me is that using Rolemaster as my main system, and that means that there is no inherent setting, and that I've created my own setting, and pair personalized setting with likes to break stereotypes. Like I like to break not stereotype. Stereotype's not the word I'm looking for right now. What's that word I'm looking for? The tropes. I want to break the tropes. Pair those two ideas together, and that means tables that come from other people and other sources almost never work for me, right? When I look at a random table like that and I see 20% of it doesn't fit my setting, I don't use it, right? And that's really frustrating because I like random tables. So, other than that, well, there's still random tables. There are other random tables that I've found really useful. Like in player creation of TSR Marvel, you could randomly generate your powers. Like you can randomly generate the group, or even go from the group down to the specific kind of power. You could randomly generate that, right? You could randomly generate what skills you had, or talents. They called them talents in TSR Marvel. I had a player who randomly generated his entire character and then from there designed a nice cohesive character concept. It was neat. I was like, oh boy, how are you going to do that with some of these roles that you got? No, it was great. So, yeah. I think in Rolemaster 2 had some talent and flaws table, mostly talents, that were supposed to be random, and item tables that were random that you could use in your character generation, and I thought that was great. Like, they came along later and like, here's some point-based way of doing it, and that's neat and all, but I really kind of like the random roll. So that's actually my favorite mechanic is random tables.